Welcome, everyone. My name is Mikhail Patrick Bovines. I work with clients from around the world, and I address this issue of worry all the time on a one-on-one basis because worry, unlike concern, is a destructive emotion that drains our energy and blocks our connection to our higher consciousness. It breeds self-doubt, powerlessness, confusion, creating barriers to our spiritual growth and personal empowerment. You're going to learn how to recognize and transform this deep-seated subconscious pattern, allowing you to gain access to the inner wisdom and the trust that is inherent within you. Let's learn how to release the burdens of worry and step into a new level of dominion. Worry is probably one of the fundamental functions of the way our ego operates. Today, you have a chance to shift your perspective and begin to deepen your power and strength by changing the way you relate to the future. Because you don't worry about the past, do you? How many of you worry about your past? Nobody does. Sometimes you worry a little in the present moment. You could be in bed in the middle of the night and you hear steps coming up your walkway and you hear somebody in your backyard. That could be worrying in the present moment. Most worry is unfounded. It's a projection of our greatest fears, and it's always about your relationship to the future or the present moment, not your past. Your past is done. You can measure it. You know what happened. You're dealing with the repercussions. You're dealing with the consequences, whatever. You don't really worry about your past. You worry about your future. This is also going to tie into understanding what worry is. And then what do you do instead? Do you just go around in apathy and indifference and, I don't care about anything. I'm not worried about anything. I'm just going to go through my life Pollyanna and ignore any negativity or turn the negativity into positive by saying, it's the best thing that could have happened. One thing I want to mention here, a lot of people do that. It's a shortcut. They don't want to deal with the impact of negativity. So when you're talking about negative, horrible things happening in your life, and you keep saying it's the best thing that could have happened, that's a lie. It's what happened. And it was up to you to make it better, but you didn't. When you say it was the best thing that could have happened, then guess what you're doing? You're programming your subconscious mind to keep having negative stuff come at you. Because you're telling your subconscious mind, this is the best. And it's going to say, okay, I'll keep it coming. But if you say, no, wait a second, I don't want this to happen. This is a reflection of something in me, my consciousness, that is in conflict. And I want to change that conflict so that I don't have to experience attracting people that will, quote, do this to me, or negative experiences at work or with bosses or with whatever. You see the difference? That little shortcut our ego does about, everything is the best. No, everything happens. And it's up to you to make it the best. Worry is tied into the way you relate to your future. It's real important to understand what the function of worry is about, because when you understand it, you can see what you can do instead, but also you can understand why this hamster wheel of worry is hard to get off of. Some people are chronic worriers. Do you know somebody like that? Parents, a friend, your coworkers that are chronic worriers. They go through the whole day worrying about everything. They're worried about the lunch cafeteria closing and not getting there on time. They're worried when they got to the car, it's going to be too hot. They're constantly looking for what's wrong, and they experience a lot of it because you are creating your own reality. Worry connects you to a very dark, negative future where you'll have more things to worry about, because the truth is most of the things people genuinely worry about never come to pass. It's a futile experience. It's spinning your wheels. It's wasting good energy that could be focusing on what you can do and change and shift, what you can give back to yourself so you feel a greater sense of inner strength and well-being. At the root of all worry is a fear. It's a specific type of fear. It's the fear of being powerless to change circumstances. And it's a fear of being out of control. Those are the two that are anchored in what worry is. There's the fear of being out of control and the fear of being powerless. It is also the function of worry is it is the anticipation of being upset and angry. I'm anticipating, which it hasn't happened yet, it's in the future, but I'm anticipating that I'm going to be upset and angry at someone or something because I feel powerless to change it and I feel out of control. The anticipation of anger and upset is also what is contained within worry. It is also the fear of doing something wrong in the future. I'm worried about my presentation at work tomorrow morning. Okay, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm afraid I'll do something wrong. I will humiliate myself, or I will be rejected, or I'll be abandoned or betrayed. On this level of worry, those fears that I mentioned about being out of control and the fear of being powerless, this is the fear of abandonment, betrayal, rejection, and humiliation. So yes, fear has a lot to do with worry. I'm not a religious person, but there's an old Bible saying that says, the thing you fear the most has come upon you, because it shares with you the law of attraction. If I'm constantly worrying, then I'm feeding my fear. And fear is an attractor. It'll create more reasons to be afraid. I'm helping you right now define what is the problem of worry so that it'll motivate you to understand what you can do instead. The fifth thing that is very common with worry, this is why people continue to express it. Because people are like, you don't go around expressing fear all the time. You want to seem like you have your stuff together, right? You're in control of your life. Most people don't go around talking about, I'm afraid of this happening. I'm afraid of being rejected, or I'm afraid of being powerless. How many times do you hear people say, I'm afraid of being out of control? No, rarely do people say that, but that's what's going on inside of them. This is what gives worry credential in our world. This fifth underlying current of worry is that worry is a way to show I care. It's an obligatory caring, because when you don't have your heart open, when you're in your ego and you're afraid of being powerless, when you tell people, I'm just worried because I care. I'm only worried about my kids because I care. I'm only worried about my job because I care about paying my bills. I'm only worried because I care. Well, again, that is a destructive emotion. Worry is destructive. It's really not about caring. Worry and caring are two different words. Because when you truly care and come from compassion, which is part of this antidote, they're not the same thing. When somebody's worrying about you, you don't feel cared for necessarily. But as a collective, as humanity, we have tied together these two very different energies to show and demonstrate, I'm just trying to show how much I care. It's an obligatory act of caring. Worry becomes that. But it's not true concern. It's not true caring. Because the opposite of worry, like I mentioned before, you don't go around saying, well, I'm just going to be apathetic and not care about anybody. I don't care. I'm just going to go around not worry because, I don't worry about it because I don't care what happens, right? You worry to show the world that you care, but it's not caring. It's a twisted ego's version of it, that beneath it is, I really am worried I'll be out of control. I'll be powerless. I'm anticipating being angry and upset, and likewise, anticipation of doing something wrong. That's what worry is. So worry emerges out of a part of you that feels and is powerless, your ego. Ego, ego, easing grace out of your life. Your ego struggles. Your ego only has 5 physical senses from which it gathers information. Therefore, it feels very limited, and it tries to control this world around it called the illusion, to try to control it so that I can reduce the worry. Ego is the part of all of us, not just you, but all of us, that feels powerless. And it truly is powerless. At the core of our ego is the fear of I'm not enough. How many people have experienced feeling that as a child growing up? You start to compete, you start to compare yourself to your siblings, your schoolmates, your friends, your neighbors. In that competition comes comparison, and in that competition and comparison comes the feeling I'm not enough. Because there's always somebody taller, shorter, better looking, whatever, than you. The ego sets itself up, and truly, as I've said before, if you only have an ego functioning in your life, if you're only feeding and paying attention to your ego, then you are being powerless. You are in victim role. Because the ego isn't enough to make your life work. Your ego isn't enough, and it knows it. But you keep giving it all your power to make your decisions, to figure things out, to get your life in order. Your ego uses shortcuts that always cut you short. The ego never delivers. It can't. It's incapable because it doesn't see the big picture. A good example of the collective ego is humanity, for how many hundreds of thousands of years thought the earth was flat. Don't go too far. Don't go too far away from the tribe or you're going to fall off into oblivion. Collective ego. that didn't have the facts because, hey, it looks like it to me. There's got to be an end here somewhere as it goes around the globe. And it sees a body of water, and certainly that's where the end is. It's going to fall off in a waterfall. The measuring tools of the ego is the five physical senses. But if you only pay attention to your five physical senses, you will always be deceived. That's why they call this physical world an illusion. It looks like the world's flat, but it's really round. It looks like the sun rises from the east and sets in the west, but it's actually the earth rotating. You see what I'm saying? It looks like you and I and everyone in your life is separate from each other, but we're really one. We come from one consciousness. We are a unique individual expression of that one consciousness, but nonetheless, we come from the same source. That's a major conflict in our world today. The judgment of difference, of being different. Anyone who looks, acts, thinks, prays, votes differently than me is the threat to your ego that is afraid and worried it'll be out of control. It'll be powerless. It is. It's anticipation of being angry because I'm feeling powerless and I'm out of control and I'm going to do something wrong. Our world right now, with the wars going on, with the judgments, with the voting in the United States, with the upcoming election, there's so much judgment of difference. I went on an African safari for about 10 days. It was life-changing, the whole experience. But on the safari specifically, I was out there with 8 people in my caravan, and we come over this horizon, and there's all these amazing animals that you've only seen in the zoo, zebras and giraffes and elephants and lions, everything. They're on this big open field. All of them were just doing their own thing. They were existing in a very similar close space together in harmony with each other. That changed my perspective. I thought, if humanity could only learn to respect our differences and our boundaries. The lions aren't running around eating everything in its sight. It eats when it's hungry and it goes out and feeds. Just like you don't eat 24 hours a day. That the balance of harmony of difference in nature is beautiful. They live in dominion. My point being is, this is a major crisis in our world right now. So much of worry is about something that's going to happen that's unfamiliar or different, that I haven't experienced in the past. I'll be unprepared. I'll make a mistake, and I'm anticipating that's going to piss me off. I'm going to be angry and upset, and I'm out of control, and I'm powerless. That is the state of being that spins off this mechanism called worry. What is the antidote, Mikhail? Okay, I got it down, and yes, I know it too well, all too well. And most of us do. I'll give you an example. On Tuesday, there was a second hurricane barreling down on Florida, and I was aware of it on the news, and I was concerned about that and hearing all the stories. I have 2 sisters who live in Tarpon Springs, Florida, 1.9 miles from the ocean. It was supposed to hit Tampa Bay, and there was supposed to be a surge of 15 feet of water. So I was worried. The first reaction was, oh my God, I'm out of control. I'm feeling powerless. I can't stop the hurricane. I did work to mitigate it. Me and some of my magician friends, and that's another whole class, dealing with electromagnetic energy. But my point being is, I was feeling worried. How did I turn that worry into concern? Because I mentioned it, I was very concerned, and I have continued to be, because concern is born of caring. I do care about my sisters. I do care about my friends in Orlando and in Fort Lauderdale and in Tampa. I grew up in Florida. I have a lot of people I know, and I've been through many hurricanes. This one was a doozy. I was feeling worried and I was afraid. So I called and talked to my sister, and I said, I think you should move inland. You should go into Orlando. I said, I have friends there that have guest rooms. You and your husband can go stay there, because I was very concerned. And then my sister says, we survived the last one. And I'm like, okay, what does that have to do with this one? It's kind of like saying, I survived the last car accident, but here's a semi-truck coming at you. Like, what does that have to do with this hurricane coming at you right now? It doesn't have anything to do with it. But she was trying to rationalize. I thought, from what my other sister told me, that she was staying because her husband didn't want to be bothered by going anywhere. That was making me upset, of course, and angry. So I was going back between worry and concern. Yes, it triggered old feelings of being powerless, although I know I'm not. because I love my sisters and I care for my friends. What I did was, instead of just hoping they do the best thing, I called my sister. I had a conversation. I said, I'm very concerned about what can happen here. I said, we just lost our parents and my brother last year. So I was honestly concerned that I would be without my family. I'd be the last survivor. But I said, it upsets me that you're staying only because of your husband. And she goes, oh, no, no, no. I'm not doing it just for her husband. She said, no, I want to stay too. I said to my sister, I said, okay, you are an adult and you have every right and free will choice to make your own decisions. I've expressed my concern about you staying there and you're choosing to. I said, so that's fine. I'm still concerned, but I'm no longer worried because I'm not in control of the situation, am I? I can't go fly over there and pull them out of the house. No, and I knew that. But I wasn't feeling powerless anymore because I expressed my concerns out of love and caring. Now the ball is in their hands. The worst thing would have been, oh, I don't want to say anything to them. And something tragic happened and I would have lived with regret. So I expressed it, even though it wasn't easy. I called them on the phone, talked to her twice. And that allowed me to express my fears, to share how much I cared, which transformed that fear. Also to honor and respect her choices in life. Now, it turns out they were fine. The hurricane wobbled and it turned direction a little bit at the last minute. It weakened the impact that they thought it was going to have. When I was listening to the news, the Tampa Bay area was saying, this has been a blessing because this didn't cause any major storm surge. There was flooding, of course, that's a lot of rain, but there was no storm surge and flooding. My point being is, I turned that worry into a concern, and it was very close to home. I'm human. And I'm spiritual. And I do care. And I am concerned, but I'm no longer worrying because I trust the universe. I trust my higher self. I trust my sister and I trust life. Now, if something had happened tragically in that hurricane, I would have grieved. I would have felt sorrow and sadness, but I wouldn't have felt regret because I expressed myself and I trust the universe. I don't know what's best for my sister's growth. I don't know. I'm not going to assume that what I want is appropriate for their soul's growth. You trust life. You trust the universe. I get questions all the time. How do I trust the universe? It has a pretty good track record compared to our lives. We've been around 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years on planet Earth, but the universe has been here doing its thing, governing nature. That's part of life. Every time there's a wildfire in Northern California, people freak out like it's against nature. No, nature has wildfires. We as humans go there and build houses thinking we can control Mother Nature. We live on the islands that are hurricane prone, but it's not nature betraying us. It's the consequences of living in certain places. If you live in Alaska, you're going to be cold because of the climate and the temperature. Dealing with life is allowing life to be what it is. Here's how we begin to unravel the worry. It always comes from, am I in my power or not? Anytime worry creeps into my mind, I realize, okay, I've stepped out of my power. It's a whisper, a signal that I'm feeling somehow powerless or out of control. The truth is my ego is not in control. The universe is in control. My soul, my spirit sees the bigger picture of my life along with my higher self that my ego doesn't always understand. I've learned to listen to my soul and my higher self. And I learned to trust that even if I don't think it's the right direction or I shouldn't have done this, all the judgments that we come up with about what doesn't go right in our lives is only born of our ego that doesn't see the big picture. How many things in your past that you thought was tragic, horrible, turned out to be such an amazing experience to you? Or it changed directions for you and you ended up meeting people and events and things that would have never happened had that not happened. Trusting the universe and owning your power begin to unlock the negative, destructive energy of worry. When you understand what it's made up of, the lack of feeling in control, you're not in control. Hear that. Life is going to happen. This is one of my quotes. Life never promised to be fair. It only promised to be full of experiences, positive and negative, expanding and constricting, that are best for you to grow and evolve and become more. As an example, Any person in your life, any event, any circumstance that gets you upset and triggers you is your higher self and soul trying to show you where you're giving your power away and where you're not free. That's what it's trying to show you. You're not free. You think you are, but you're not in this area. That's why that person triggers you. That's why people get you upset, or you go into worry. You worry about yourself. Most worry, it looks like you're worrying about events, or I'm worrying about my sister, but I was worrying about being the only child in the family now, the last of 6. There's always a little bit of self-centeredness within worry. When I realized, okay, this isn't about me. This is about trusting the universe, trusting my sister's higher self, and they ended up being fine. A major tree fell, blocked their house, and crashed part of their roof. They have roof damage, and it could have been a close call, but they were okay. Had the storm gone according to what the actual path of it was into Tampa, it might have been a different story. I don't know. Uncertainty is something our ego hates. It would rather have an answer, even if it's wrong. Your ego thinks it's always right. Oh, I got it. I know it. I know it all. I got it all figured out. No, you don't. When you can really take your power back from your ego, you can step into the resonance of power. You can't get rid of your ego. You need an ego. But you've given it all your power to make your decisions and your choices, to think you know it all, to be arrogant, or to worry, or to try to be in control, to anticipate being angry even though it hasn't happened. All that's negativity, isn't it? And it's all generated by the part of us that eases grace out of our life. Your ego is a victim, but you aren't. Now, when you're partnering with your ego, then you become a victim as well. You've never been a victim of life. Life happens to all of us. Your relationship to life, when you go into your ego and you decide and make a judgment, there's something wrong with you, because your ego is powerless. Your ego is not enough. But with you on its side, you, your consciousness, your true self, you make the choices and decisions. I could worry here. Instead, I called up my sister. I took action. I expressed myself. I was being vulnerable. I shared with her my concerns, and then I honored and respect her decision, even though it wasn't the one I would have made, but I'm not her. And then I could let it go and trust the universe, trust whatever happened. And if something tragic happened, I wouldn't have felt regret because I did my part. Worry withholds. It represses. I'm just doing this because I care. No, it's not why you're doing it. You're doing it to try to demonstrate you care for others. It's an obligatory caring. I got to worry for my children. No, be concerned, but trust they have a higher self. Trust the universe. Trust life. You see, that's where the ego doesn't feel safe, is that the world's an ugly place. The world's out to get you. In the ego's world, that's true. But you're not your ego. You are a powerful, majestic, spiritual being who happens to have an ego. Because you need an ego to be physical, to be in this physical domain. It's there to protect you, to guide you. It's supposed to deliver information to you, and then you make the choice and decision, and then it follows through and carries it out. You walk into a room, your ego delivers, okay, here's some empty seats, and I'm in this auditorium. There's an air conditioning blowing right over that seat. That's going to be cold. It gives it to you, and then you decide what to do, and then your ego moves your feet and carries you to an appropriate place. It's supposed to give you information. But what happens when you're giving your power to your ego? You go into that same auditorium and you look around and you go, oh my God, look who's over there. Oh, I don't want to sit next to him or her. Oh my God. And it's looking and it's judging and it's feeling powerless. And oh, let's just go sit in that empty seat. It happens to be right underneath the air conditioning, because it's only concerned about who's there and all the judgments and all the stuff. It's a little story. And it ends up sitting in that chair and it's drafting. You're miserable and you can't get the message because it sabotages you. That's my point. That's the negative ego that's left unattended. When you take your power back and you start making choices and decisions, I think that example of what I just shared with Hurricane Milton barreling down into Florida, that yeah, life happens. I'm not in control of it. When you can really understand that, well, Mikhail, I thought everything's going to happen for the best. It's up to you to make it the best. If you leave it in the hands of your ego, it may not be the best. You'll still grow and you'll still evolve, but you could have done it in a much more elegant, meaning the least amount of energy, for the maximum results. The scientific term elegance, not the fashion sense. Okay. Those of you new on here, the least amount of energy for the maximum return or results. That's a good example of what it allowed me the elegance of being able to share with my sister my concerns, to listen to her side in her decision making, and I could let it go and trust the universe. That made it the most elegant for me to deal with. Otherwise, had I not done that, I would have been worried and up all night and texting my friends and watching the news and try to get some sense of control or knowledge. Knowledge is power. Depends on where that knowledge comes from, whether it's powerful or not. If it comes from your ego, it's not powerful. It's usually not giving you the best information. But my point being is, when you move from worry into concern, your heart is open and trusting and caring and compassionate. That's what concern is. It's an expression of love. It's also an understanding that we are not in control of life. Life is going to happen. Life never promised to be fair, only full of experiences for us to grow. Some of those experiences, depending on if we listen to them or we ignore them, become painful experiences or become beautiful experiences. But our judgment, good, bad, right, wrong, shoulda, coulda, woulda, keeps us in a prison. In order to unlock worry and shift into concern, it always begins with who are you? Your relationship to your ego. Am I still allowing my ego to run my life, to make my decisions? How do you know when your ego is running your life? First of all, you think you have it all figured out. Of the know-it-all, got it all figured out, I have all the answers. That's not true. None of us do. We can gain a lot of wisdom and knowledge. I'm not saying you're ignorant. I'm not saying that at all. But life happens and we're not in control. We can take charge of our life. We can function with excellence, doing the best that we can, knowing that we're doing our best because we're listening to our truer self, our soul and our spirit and our higher consciousness. We're also understanding how our ego can sabotage us. We understand, we know our ego's games, so we can get off the game board. But if you don't know what your ego does, then you're stuck and it's going to keep making decisions because that's the way it's set up, designed as humanity. It's the default to try to protect you, to make love safe, to make you safe, because you are love. Understanding, who am I? When you come into each lifetime, you have primary choices that are fundamental lessons that every lifetime offers you. The first one is, who am I going to be? Powerful or powerless? It really hinges upon who am I going to listen to. Now, everyone listens to their ego the first part of their life until you understand it's never going to deliver what it promises. Your ego tells you in order to be safe, in order to be secure, in order to make sure you're loved, just get an education, graduate high school, go to college, figure out what you want to do the rest of your life when you're 18 years old. Good luck with that. Get a secure job, get married. God forbid if you're alone, get a house on the hill with 2.5 kids, and then you'll be happy. American dream built by a collective ego. It doesn't produce happiness. People end up feeling what's wrong. The problem is they don't think listening to the ego was wrong. They think something is wrong about me, your true self. And the only thing that was wrong is you listened to your ego. You can stop listening to it and you can change and take your power back. You can fully be empowered and create your reality consciously. To create by causing, allowing, and attracting. And that's what power is. The very first choice is, am I going to discover my power in this lifetime and shift out of powerlessness into empowerment? That's always available in every lifetime. You don't always do it, but you will one day. Eventually you will. One of your lifetimes will do it. It might as well be now because you're listening to me and you understand it and you've awakened and you've gone through a lot. You wouldn't be on here listening to me if you hadn't woke up. You would be like, this guy's crazy. That's the very first thing is, am I going to be powerful or powerless? Your journey in your life and your evolution is about taking your power back from the world and owning who you are. The ego says, I know who I am. It's based upon what I have and what I do and my education status and my job description. Well, that's not who you really are. That's who you become. You were around way before all that stuff happened. So I'm talking about the core essence of your being. that we all abandon it to figure out our ego's games, how we're going to survive. It's not a mistake. You need an ego. But there's a point when you choose, am I going to continue to let my ego solve my problems, which it cannot do because it doesn't understand life? Or am I going to start to trust myself and open up to my higher self and connect with my soul and access the inner power within me? The ego is looking for the outer power. As soon as I get the degree, as soon as I get that job, as soon as I have enough money in the bank, then I'll be powerful. No, you won't. You'll never feel it because those things are an illusion. You still feel you're powerless. That's why you have to have it. You get that job that pays all that money, and then you're worried. Losing it. Why? Because I'm not losing a job. I'm losing my power that I never developed in myself. I gave my power away. Shifting power. You are powerful. You are enough when you've taken your power back from your ego. I close all my classes with, I hope that I can help you to reveal the beautiful truth of who you are. And who you are is a powerful, majestic, and beautiful spiritual being. I say that at the end of every class almost. It's something I say a lot. I work with my clients so they can embody that. I help them remove the conflicts in their consciousness so that they can become that, accelerate the process, because doing it on your own is hard when you can't see the forest for the trees. My point being is that's who you truly are. When you come from that position of pure being, you are powerful because you've chosen to empower yourself, to remember who you are, to access your intuition, your creativity, all of those energies that the ego dismisses. When you can remember and taking your power back from the ego, listening to your ego, don't ignore it, don't deny it. It's just trying to protect you. Its intentions are good, but it's like the child in you, because that's often what the ego in most people who are grown-ups is functioning and operating as a child or an adolescent at best. Would you want a child and adolescent to make your decisions about your future and your life and your relationships and health and your finances? Would you want that? Well, if you're only listening to your ego, that's what's happening. That's why it's never working. It's victim consciousness. And we all have it because true power comes out of free will choice. In order to choose to be powerful, I also have to have a disempowered part of me to step away from. I have to have a choice. Without choice, nothing changes. I came here to grow and evolve and become powerful and become empowered. I need to exercise my free will choice. Well, I already did that, Mikhail. In the summer of 77, I chose to be powerful. Ta-da! Well, it's not something you do once. It's something you live every breath you take. Every step of the journey. Am I choosing to function in my power or not? Life is there to try to take your power away, to see if you're truly learning the lesson. And once you become empowered, you are in a world, a different set called Dominion, where the world is a friendly place there to love, value, and support you. And that friendly world is magic and miracles, knowing that we're all connected. We're all from the same source. We're not that different from each other. That's the dominion that I speak of. Pronoia, the world's out to support and love you. Now, the world of the ego, that is the worrier, what you're worried about is that you are powerless and that you're out of control. You're anticipating being angry and upset. The ego that thinks I'm separate. I'm alone. I have this all to figure out. That it's a dog-eat-dog world and people only have their best interests at heart. I have to protect myself and I have to climb to the top and I have to be the best at everything. Better than. I have to be perfect to survive. It creates paranoia. The world's out to get me. It's a fear-based reality. It's called domination. I've got to dominate. I've got to control others before they control me. I've got to manipulate rather than being manipulated. I've got to dominate others, otherwise I'll be dominated. It's fear. It's your ego that feels separate and alone, but it's trying to protect you and make you feel safe. But you know what? It's always been a lie. You're not separate. You're not alone. It appears that way to your ego, but the truth is you are connected. God got us all that is there to love it, value, and support you. You have to be willing to let it in. Free will choice. When you make that choice, you open up to a whole new reality. You become empowered. You don't become perfect. You become empowered. Will you make a mistake? Yeah. I make mistakes from time to time, but I learn from them and I gain and garner something. I meet different people that I would not have met and it becomes part of the success step. Sometimes mistakes lead to deeper levels of success. Your ego says, success is good. That's what I'm striving and achieving to one day get. How will you know you're successful? When I get the big house on the hill, when I get married, I have 2.3 kids, when I have this much money in the bank, oh, then you'll be successful. Success has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with what you can control and dominate and manipulate and make happen. It has judgments of success. That's why it never feels successful, because its idea of success is outside of itself. You are an empowered spiritual being. You've already succeeded. You're here and you're present. Success, all it means is that your beliefs and attitudes that produce your thoughts and feelings, that create the choices available to you and the decisions you make, are in alignment with you and your power, meaning you are in alignment with yourself and you succeed. Failure means there's a belief or attitude, a thought or feeling, and out of that, the choices and decisions you made were out of alignment and did not succeed, so you failed. But that's all that success and failure means. It doesn't mean you're good or bad or right or wrong or superior or inferior. See, that's all the ego game. That's what keeps you on that hamster wheel, worrying, being out of control. As I mentioned earlier, worry is your relationship to the present and the future. You don't worry about the past. It's over with. Your ego can remember and has it all figured out, even though its version of it is not even what really happened, its version of it. Let's talk about how to begin to empower yourself. The journey of empowerment is a 7-step journey. It begins with self-awareness. Who am I? Well, Mikhail, I have an ego. No, that's not true. You've always had a soul and a spirit, and your truer self has always been there. You might have ignored it. You might have denied it. You might have turned your back on it, but it's still there. You can't exist without it. It is your very life force energy. It is you, your eternal being. That's who you are. And you have an ego to help be your servant, to help you relate to life and to follow through with what you want to do. It's the lens through which you see the physical world and perceive life. The problem is the ego thinks that's what's causing everything out here, not who you are and your beliefs and attitudes, thoughts and feelings, choices and decisions. That's what's really causing everything. Self-awareness is the first step, but it's not just self-awareness. Yeah, I can become aware. Yeah, I'm a real schmuck. I'm a powerless victim. I'm an alcoholic, codependent, schizophrenic, bipolar, fill in the blank with all the labels. Psychology is so great at helping you define what's wrong with you. Very little of it has any solutions and answers, but hey, I know who I am. Got lots of people to hang out with in my AA group or my codependent adult parents of. I mean, look at all the different dysfunction. It's valuable. I'm not saying it's not valuable, but I'm saying it's not who you are. You are a powerful, majestic spiritual being who is experiencing alcoholism, who is experiencing drug addiction, who is experiencing whatever it is. But you're so much more powerful than that. The ego feels totally powerless and a victim and will continue to play that out. Pity loves to commiserate with other people, to have pity parties, right? Well, so does joy. Joy gives much better parties than pity. Learn to get into joy, which is your true nature. Take your power back. Learn. Understand. Yeah, you might have an allergic reaction to alcohol, but you don't identify yourself. Like having a peanut allergy, you don't go around telling everybody that's who I am. If that's a condition, that's something you're dealing with, that's a limitation you placed upon yourself because you had to learn some lessons from it. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying you're so much more than that. I'm here to help you remember and empower yourself. The first step of self-empowerment is self-awareness that leads to self-acceptance. To accept yourself, to accept your true self, to accept that you have an ego, to accept your ego's games, that this is what I do when I'm afraid. I go into fear, I fight or freeze or fly, get away, run away. Those are my ego's games. When I know how my ego sabotages me, I can plan the escape from its prison. But if I'm in prison there, I don't know what it's doing. It's a subconscious program I've been doing since I was 3 or 4 or 5. It's going to be frustrating and struggling. But in order to get out of that prison, you can't operate in the ego. You have to step out into your empowered self and you have to own who you are. And then you can start to relate to that ego, something separate from you. Yes, you have an ego. Yes, it's a part of this lifetime. It has been cultivated by what happened to you in your childhood, by beliefs that your mother, your father, other people gave you. The conditions and experiences of life all formulated this worldly personality. But you're so much more than just that. It's part of you. That's where self-awareness comes in. Self-awareness that go into self-acceptance. Out of that, when you truly discover who you are, the second step of empowerment is self-worth. To own your value and worth. Because when you understand who you truly are, you are a spiritual being. You are inherently worthy. You don't have to do anything to get more worth. You are valuable. You knew that as an infant. You knew that as a child. When you were a little infant, you would let everybody love you and support you and bring you stuff. You didn't feel guilty. Oh, I'm getting another bottle? No, that's too much. I want to watch my hips, make sure they don't get too big. That's all ego. But a little child is open and letting itself be loved and valued and supported and held and cradled and laughed and played with. That little child is completely uninhibited, not self-conscious at all. If it throws up on its father's blazer, it doesn't feel guilty. Oh, I'm so sorry. It just exists and knows it's valuable and worthy inherently. It wasn't until your ego started to develop that you started to compete and compare. And you, hear this, you decided you were not good enough. But you created that. And the not good enough, when you really get down to it, it's a feeling of I'm not good enough. I've done something wrong. I'm paying the price. I feel guilty. Therefore, I need to worry. I'm too different to belong. Those are the three primal turning points that shifted you out of your power into trying to get power from outside of you. People, it was part of the path. You didn't make a mistake. It's human nature. You had to go through that. You give your power away so that one day you can choose to take it back. Sometimes you don't value something until it's gone, until it's missing, until you deal with the suffering of its absence. You have two ways of relating to that past. Does it make you feel guilty? What can I learn? What is the message that my soul was trying to give me? What have I learned? As I mentioned earlier, life happens. Life never promised to be fair. All it ever promised was to be full of experiences. Expansive, love, joy, peaceful, happy experiences, and constrictive, fearful, angry, hurtful. Those experiences were there to help you to grow and evolve and to become more. Guess what? There comes a point when you learn all the lessons that the negative experiences can teach you. You always have to deal with those first. Negativity. There comes a point when you learn all you can learn about fear. You learn all you can learn about hurt and pain, jealousy and envy. Once you learn those lessons and you take your power back, it's time then to learn the really scary lessons. Being fully loved, valued, appreciated, and supported by God, Goddess, hear this last part, all that is. To be loved by life is so much more scary than to deal with your fears of the insignificance and powerlessness, being a victim. To be fully empowered and know that you are an expression and a reflection of God, Goddess. You are part of all that is. You're a thread in the fabric of life. You matter. You have value inherent. Own it and feel it and start to share that. That is more scary to your ego, because that means you don't need your ego as much to continue playing its little story. It's written the little story of, I'm a victim and this happened to me. That's how it identifies. You're taking its identity away, and it's scary. Often people who wake up and start taking their power back are feeling dread. Dread is a feeling of non-being. I don't know who I am anymore. That's often a midlife crisis. I'm not my degree, and I'm not my education. I'm not what happened. I'm not this marriage. I'm more than all of this. Not that it's wrong. That's not who I am that I thought I was. Also, the crisis in midlife is when you've over-identified with that, and something happens, life happens to take it away. Your spouse dies. You lose your job and your pension that you've been working on for 30 years or whatever. My point is, you are a powerful spiritual being. Being empowered is owning your worth, owning your value, developing self-esteem, the love that you earn by the way you live your life with principles and character. That's the third component of empowerment, is functioning with self-esteem, and that it leads you to self-love. The fourth component, to love yourself, all of yourself, including your ego, including your games, including the unlovable parts of yourself. Be able to hold space, to respect, even though you don't agree with it. With my sister, I don't agree with her staying where she was, with a storm surge heading in her direction. It could have been devastating, but I respected her opinion. It's her life, not mine. Who am I to be arrogant to say I know what's best for my sister? No. Once I expressed my concerns and what might happen, and I shared it, she decided this is why she's staying. It's her decision, not just her husband's. I could let it go and say, okay, I'm going to respect her decisions. I don't agree, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree. We can be different. That's what it's all about, folks. The path to empowerment. I don't want people to think it stops at self-love. Most people do. Once I love myself, that's the goal, and I'm done. I'm fully empowered. No, that's the fourth of 7 components. Self-awareness that leads to self-acceptance is the first. Self-worth, owning your value of who you are as a spiritual being. Third step is the most determined, self-esteem, the love that you earn by having integrity, trust, taking responsibility in the way you live your life. I can appreciate myself because I'm a good person. I'm an honest person. I'm a responsible person. I do care about others. I never want to consciously hurt others. Those are built self-esteem, third component. And the fourth is self-love. To love everything about yourself, even the unlovable parts. Then self-awareness, self-worth, self-esteem, self-love cascades into the fifth component of being empowered, self-confidence, where I can confide in me, I can be honest with me, and I can look at my life respectfully and honestly without judgment, without guilt and shame and pain. I can confide and trust myself, trust my relationship to my higher self, that even if I make a mistake, I will benefit from it somehow and get back on track. That's confidence, the fifth. A self-confident person isn't a person who never makes mistakes. They make mistakes and they trust themselves to resolve it and learn from it and grow and become more. Confidence is the magic of presence. The sixth component of the empowered journey is then self-respect. What does that mean? As you become empowered, you look deeper into yourself. That's what respect means, to go back and look again. To go back to return to. Spectacles, to look at. Spectator, I'm looking, I'm observing. When you respect yourself, you are willing to look deeper at yourself and who you are. Self-respect is the sixth component, and self-empowerment or self-realization is the seventh. To be fully realized, empowered, functioning as a spiritual being in alignment with the truth of who you are, accessing your empowered destiny. That, my friends, is the journey of empowerment. And ultimately, that is what will build the foundation where you can release worry. This is how I deal with worry. This is a subconscious program. These statements, beliefs I put into my subconscious a couple decades ago, because beliefs create reality and experience. It's a belief and an attitude. I didn't always believe it, but now I completely do. It's fully integrated into my subconscious mind. I've programmed my subconscious mind for it, and it's there. This is how I deal with worry. If something comes up into my mind that triggers the ego's worry, I remind myself, everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. It's true. As long as you're alive right now, no matter what threats happened in your past, if that threat wasn't life-threatening and you died, it was your ego's fears. It wasn't real threat. It was your ego's fear. If it isn't life-threatening, it's ego-threatening. That's what that means. You're here, you're alive, you're listening to this, so everything is working out for you. Not always the way you wanted it to. Not always as elegant as it could be when you're in your power, but you're here. When you are up against something that you're concerned about, just step back and take a deep breath in. Everything always works out for me. And really think about that. Program that into your subconscious mind. I've done this for myself and I've done it for other people. You can do it. You can implant it, repeating and thinking and feeling and bringing that forward. The success of any change in your consciousness hinges upon you standing in your power, knowing you are a majestic, powerful spiritual being. If you're in your victim, this probably won't work for me. Nothing ever works for me. That's a program you've got going in your subconscious mind. I always try and fail. Those are just beliefs. The belief about anything is just a belief. I can change the belief. Doesn't mean you're good or bad or right or wrong. It means if you fail achieving something or you sabotage yourself, it just means that your beliefs and attitudes, thoughts and feelings or choices and decisions are out of alignment with the truth of who you are. I can change that. That's good news. Because if it's somebody outside of me, I'm powerless, then I've got to get them to change for me to live my life. And that never, ever will work. That's one technique. When something is uncertain about the future, realize everything always works out for me and let it in. Look back into your life. Do some journaling about things that you thought were going to be horrible and tragic. Review your life and really look at what came out of it, what changed. Own it. The more you believe it, the more true it becomes. Now, everything always does work out for me 100% of the time. In the beginning, it worked out most of the time. We kept reprogramming and reaffirming it and expecting it. Hear that? Expecting things to work out for you. You create your own reality. You do it through imagination, desire, and expectation. Well, if I'm expecting myself to be powerless and I'm expecting myself to fail, then I'm going to worry because I'm not using the three tools. Desire, what do I want? Can I imagine it? If I can't imagine it, it means I don't believe it. If you can't imagine yourself being in a loving relationship with another human being, that just means I don't really believe it's possible. But you can change your beliefs. Imagination is there to measure what you believe is true. All I can imagine is negative things happening in the future and all that could go wrong. And well, you've got some work to do to opening up to the dream and have a vision of what you do want. Get a vision board. Start focusing on the positive because you are going to create it, the future, no matter what. You are responsible for that future. When you're empowered, you grab hold of that power and you are happy to be powerful. You won't do it perfectly, but you will change and move and shift the future to end up in your empowered destiny. When you don't feel that power, that means I'm powerless. Then I want to blame. This is the reason why, and all the justifications of why my life doesn't work. I didn't get the education. I didn't marry the right person, or I never got married. That leads you to a disempowered future. Understanding that can help you to shift the worry. Is what do I expect to happen? I expect everything to always work out for me. And it does. When any doubt comes in, because worry fosters self-doubt, confusion. The confusion is often I'm feeling out of control. In my private session, I deal with people's worries and their concerns, and I help them shift into their power. Because that's the only antidote, by the way. The ego thinks in order to abate worry, I got to control the situation. I got to know what's going to happen. I got to eliminate all uncertainty. That's never going to happen. You're always going to be worried. When you stand in your power, you own your strength, and you trust life, you know that my future is uncertain. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen next week, but this is what shifts it. I know who I'm going to be tomorrow, next week. I'm going to be my empowered self. I'm going to be accepting, self-aware, knowing my worth and value, self-esteeming, self-loving, confident, respectful, and empowered. No one can make you do those things. No one can force you to do those things. I can only inspire you. Likewise, once you do it, no one can take it away from you. That's when you say, I trust myself. Not because I have it all figured out. I know what's going to happen next week. No, I don't know. Hear this, folks. You might want to write this down. Uncertainty is what the ego is terrified of. I got to know it all. Got to be in control. It thinks it knows it all, but it doesn't. That's the problem. You're adolescent teenager when you're that age, or you have children that were that age. They think they know it all. They have it all figured out. They don't. They don't even have a fraction of it figured out. When you're empowered, uncertainty transforms into unlimited possibilities. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know there's a lot of great possibilities of what could happen tomorrow. There's a lot of great possibilities of what could happen next week and next month and next year. Because I'm coming from my power. Power turns uncertainty into possibility. When I got to be certain, I got to control, it shuts down possibility for the future. You're wondering why my life isn't changing, why my relationships aren't getting better, and why life is a bitch and then you die. Coming from a victim, you feel uncertain and you got to control. It's the control and the powerlessness that's the problem, because it's not true. It's only this part of you that you listen to and believe the lie that you're powerless, that you are only your ego. No, you're a powerful, majestic spiritual being. You are powerful. When you stand in your power, you're not certain what's going to happen, but you know you're certain of who you are. I'm a powerful, majestic spiritual being. I live in a world that's there to love, value, and support me. I demonstrate it every day, and love flows into my life magically, continuously. When worry dissolves and you trust the process, of living your life with all of its many experiences, some of them positive, some of them negative, all of them there for you to learn, to grow, to evolve, and to become more. The ultimate transformation. Then I'm not a person who ever worries anymore. It could be triggered like this past week with my sisters in Florida. Worry started to surface, but I mitigated and turned it around in less than an hour. It didn't ruin my night. Wasn't up sleepless all night. I didn't give my power away to it. I recognized it. It triggered some old fears, probably from previous lifetimes when I lost relatives and friends in natural disasters. Hasn't happened in this lifetime. It maybe triggered that. I don't judge myself. It's just what was coming up for me. It was quite surprising because that rarely ever happens. I was like, wow, I really feel this worry and tightness inside, so let me deal with it. I dealt with it. Ironically, this happened right before this class, so this actually helped develop the class as well. That might have been coincidence. I came up with this title like 2 weeks ago before I knew there was a hurricane coming through. Concern. You do care. You're a spiritual being and you do care, and we have impact on each other. Why do we have impact on each other? If I create my own reality, why can't I create where nobody has impact on me? Because you came here to love. That's the answer. You came here to love. And in order to love, you have to have impact on another person and on yourself and on life and on plants and animals and everything. Because we live in a world of duality. It's not just that I can love. I can withdraw love and create pain, suffering, hurt. That's impact, isn't it? When you hurt somebody, that's impact. In order to have impact in a world of duality, again, going back to your power. Why? Why would I do that? Because I want to be able to choose. Because choice is my power. When I make the choice to be loving instead of being hurtful, I feel joy. I grow and I evolve. I have to have the opposite, the contrast, so that I can make a choice. I have to have an ego who doesn't know how to get through life. It's there to protect you, but is very limited in what it can offer you, especially when you've given your power away to it. You have this limited self and you have your empowered self. Which one do you listen to? You know your limited self. You know all the games. You know that. You've got that down pat. You've learned all the lessons. Now I'm here to help you to cross the bridge and to reclaim your power, to remember the truth of who you are as a powerful and beautiful spiritual being. When you really get that, so much of the pain and struggles dissolves instantly. Instantly. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to spend days and days and days of affirmations and visualizations. It just disappears because this set is different. Being empowered is a set of dominion where you know you are love. Hear that. You are love. Not that you are loved. You are love. And it's enough. You are abundance. When you really get that, the illusion has to bring it to you. But when you're thinking and feeling insufficient, inadequate, you're trying to go after getting money to make up for it, you're giving your power away to money because that's not where the power is. It's in you. It always has been. You know that. It's been such a joy, folks. Just piecing together what I've said here can help you to shift your perspective into your power. When you function from your power, then you have unlimited possibilities rather than the desire for certainty in an uncertain world. You can function with grace and trust, believing the world's there to love and value and support you. It's called pronoia, a world of dominion. You can start letting that love in that you've always had available, but were unwilling because of beliefs and attitudes that were in the way, that you somehow were flawed, defective, and broken, and a sinner. That was never true. The only problem you have is believing you have a problem. The only thing that's wrong with you is the belief that something's wrong with you, which is what your ego holds. Because your true self is a beautiful and powerful, majestic spiritual being. I hope you got some value from today. Continue to be concerned, but trust the process of life. Let go of the worry that is so destructive, that keeps us in the negativity of the past. Till our paths cross again, thank you for your love, for all the donations. Wonderful. I really appreciate it. It's been a joy and a pleasure. Take care now. God bless. See you soon.